Life Her Podcast.
Hey girl, thank you for tuning in to Life Her Podcast. We are here to inspire you, lift you up, and let you know we see you in all of your love, strength, power, and courage. So sis, let's take a journey together because our experiences are not our own, and cycles, they need to be broken. Hey ladies, I am your host, Yvette Lloyd. I would like to welcome Lisa McCraney, CEO of Healing Hearts Counseling and Consultation Services. Hey Lisa.
Hey Pat.
How are you doing?
I am good.
That is real good. So we gonna get down to business real early in the conversation. So I would like to know, who is the little girl Lisa McCraney?
That is such a loaded question. Where do I start? Like the little girl or all stages?
You can start with the little girl where you feel comfortable with first.
Okay. So the little girl, Lisa, was just a fun little girl. I remember playing outside. I remember my brother and sister and we planted a watermelon patch outside and really believed we were growing watermelons. I used to collect bugs and play in dirt and climb trees and all of that stuff that if you knew me now you would never believe that I did that, because I'm scared of bugs and all of that stuff now. But yeah, I would collect worms and all kind of stuff, and I had a favorite spot in the tree outside our house that I would just climb up in and sit in.
Wow. I was a fan of tree houses.
Really?
Yes, I've always wanted one, so I said if I ever had kids, I'm gonna build them a tree house.
Have you ever watched that tree house show?
No.
There's a whole show where the people go and build tree houses for families. It's amazing.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to go ahead and watch that, because I already watched other people like how they just be built in the little houses. I'm like, shoot, I want a tree house.
It's nice.
Okay. So I would like to know, if you could look inside your mind, would you be able to reveal the struggles of your past?
Absolutely. I don't think that they ever really left my mind. It's something that I carry with me regularly because it's part of what fuels me today, to keep pushing and to actually do what I do as a counselor, as a therapist. I've always believed that God allowed me to go through so much in my life because it would pave the way for me to be able to be real and bear witness with the ladies, and sometimes gentlemen that come and sit on my couch with me for counseling. So yeah, it's a lot. My struggles, they are, I do remember that they start back from the little girl. I was talking to my sister one time, and I remember telling her within this last year that I remember the time when we were happy. My mind goes back sometimes to the switch when life changed for us, where that little girl who sat in the tree, that was taken from her.
Oh wow!
And our life changed dramatically, very quickly. That little girl who was happy and fun-loving and all of that turned into a very shy and, in a sense, beaten down. I was not beaten up or anything like that, but life just changed so dramatically. So I grew up in a home where my dad was both a drug user, and he was also violent with my mom, so he would beat her as well. And then he was in and out the house and in and out of jail. Some of that I didn't know back then. I know now. So there are bits and pieces that I remember from back then. So I didn't know all of the story then. But there was an incident I do remember where he hurt her in front of us. There was an incident I remember where we found his, needles looking for something. I don't know what we were doing. Me and my brother and sister and I did some of everything. But I know one day we were looking for something. So remember when Nestle Quick used to come in the can and you would pop
Oh
the lid?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I used to love
And
that.
so we were called what used to be called latchkey kids, where my mom would work, and we would come home and by ourselves let ourselves in, and that's what they would call latchkey. That you would let yourself back in the house and be kind of home alone before your parent came in if your parents were working. And so we were always allowed to come. We would come home, call my mom, let her know we were home. We could have a snack, and then we had to get our homework started. And so one particular day, I remember we wanted hot chocolate, and we had some of that Nestle Quick in that can, and we popped the lid, and our Nestle Quick was not in there, but my dad's needles were.
Wow.
And so then we got nosy, and we were like, what are these? And what's,
Asking all the questions.
what's going on?
Right.
And so then we started searching the house for more stuff.
Wow.
Like standing on counters and looking on top of stuff and all kind of stuff to see what else was in there. And so those are things that I remember. We had to leave abruptly from that home because my dad was doing what he was doing and hurting my mom and in and out of jail and things like that. And so we ended up having to leave that home because he was threatening her pretty violently. That whatever that last time was, he was I think he had gotten incarcerated again, and he wanted her to come get him, and she wouldn't, and so he began to threaten her, not just her but us too.
Wow.
And so I think that she always says there was something in that last conversation that she believed him. And so I just remember we lived on Nome Avenue, and then one day we didn't.
Wow.
And we moved in with a lady and a family that she met at church, and then life changed for us.
Did it change for good, as for in a good path, or you started to struggle even more with you guys moving?
Absolutely. I think we went from, I know for sure I went from bad to hell. It just was not good for me, and it wasn't good for my sister. It just wasn't good. Life just wasn't fun anymore. And I was no longer happy. I no longer talked. I tried to be as quiet as possible. I tried to not be seen. I tried to be as good as I could possibly be, because just life was not fun. Part of what happened there was, and I think this might be the first time that I ever shared this publicly on such a huge platform. But I made my mind up this year that I was going to say what God told me to say.
So step into healing.
And to really fully step into my healing. But when we moved in with that family, the oldest son began to hurt my sister and I. Now at that time I didn't know it was her. I thought it was just me. As we've become adults and things like that, we know that it was both of us. But at that time, I thought it was just me. Probably my 9th grade year might have been when he started with me, in terms of molestation and touching and, forced intercourse and all kind of things like that. And for me, it didn't start that way. It didn't start harmful. For me, I think he preyed on my innocence and my shyness. And so he initially started off as saying he was my boyfriend, and that we would be secret boyfriend and girlfriend. And, at that time, by that time I was 9th grade, and 7th and 8th grade weren't fun. I wasn't popular. I was never called pretty. I was never... and nobody ever looked at me like they wanted to be my boyfriend. And so to have somebody that I thought was extremely handsome at that time act like he wanted to be bothered with me, even though our families were living together as a family. The fact that somebody was paying me some attention, I was like, oh, okay. And then he, presented it like, it's just going to be our secret. We're not going to tell nobody.
And how old was he?
He was, if I was 14, he was 18.
Wow.
And so it started that way. And so it's not like he just trapped me one day and, started hurting me. He eased into what he was doing. And so
it's like a mind thing, reverse psychology.
And so I just remember, he would do things like kiss me and touch me and different things like that. And so in the beginning, I did not stop him because I thought, I don't know, I just know I didn't stop him in the beginning. And I was writing, I used to be a journaler, a huge journaler, so I would write in journals all the time at that time. And my sister was having a real rough go of life, like real rough go. Now in hindsight, I know the truth. And so the truth was he had already started with her, and he was already doing things to her. And that was her rebellion at that time. But so because she was having such a rough go at life, my mom, she was getting in trouble a lot at school, and it was just a lot going on. And my mom was looking, I remember she was looking, I think, just for answers on what was going on with my sister. So while we were at school one day, she searched our room, just trying to find out what all was going on with her. And so she found my journal while looking for stuff to give her answers about my sister. And in my journal was different things like, oh, he kissed me today, he said this, he said that, or he did this. And so I remember one day she asked me about it. And like, hey, I found this journal, and this stuff is written in it. Is that true? And so initially I was like, I was just making up a story. And if you knew me back then, you would have believed that because I was an avid reader. I'm still an avid reader. I would go to the library every 2 weeks. She would let me walk down to the library every 2 weeks. I'd get a bunch of books, come back up. So I read a lot, I wrote a lot. And so for me to say, oh, no, I was just making up a story, it was easy to believe,
Right.
And so she kind of just looked at me and she was like, okay. And that was the end of that. She didn't ask any more questions. The next day, I remember, I can't tell that lie to mommy. And I was real good about never wanting to really lie to her. And again, I never wanted to be in trouble as well. So that lie was eating at me. So I remember coming home one day, for whatever reason, she was home. And not at work. I'm not really sure what was going on, but I know that particular day, the next day she was home at lunchtime, and I lived right across the street from school, from Bookdo.
Oh, wow.
And so I went home at lunch, and I was like, so I wasn't lying. The stuff in that book really did happen, and it's been happening for however long it had been happening. And she was like, oh, so we're going to have talk about this, later on. And it was going to be me and her, and then him and his mom. Because again, we all live in the same house. And so later on came, and there was this meeting, and then the rest, I think the other kids were sent upstairs or something. But in the meeting, they read the journal and, asked some questions. And now in the meeting, my mom wasn't really the lead of the meeting. His mom was. And so, she was like the boss or in charge or something. I don't really know. I just remember that she took the lead in the conversation and asked if it happened, and I said yes. And he was like, she lying. Nobody want to touch that ugly girl. Why would I want to touch her? Nobody like her or ugly self. And just different things like that. Wow. And just all of a sudden I was...
Oh my God.
And so...
It probably gave you a breakdown also because it's like, sometimes when we trying to defend ourselves and speak out loud, it creates us to shut down, and all we can do is cry, and then if you start crying, they be like, "Oh, look, she's crazy. She's delusional."
I just remember that he was adamant that I was lying. And I'll never forget the end of the meeting. His mom was like, "You need to find something else to make up."
Make up for what?
No, she just believed that I was making up stories.
Wow.
And that it was just a story I wrote, and I needed to find something else to make up.
So she's just a mother being in denial also?
Probably. I don't know. I just know that at the end of that meeting, I wasn't believed, that it really was happening. I don't really remember my mom speaking up much at that meeting at all. She may have. I just don't remember it. But I do remember that his mom was more of the dominant voice, and they basically told me to quit making up stuff. And so things changed after that. And not for the better, because then it became he would just do what he wanted to me whenever he wanted.
So he continued even after that?
That's when it got bad. And so he would do...
And you guys were all still living in the same household. Your mom didn't move or nothing?
Didn't move, nothing.
Wow.
And so then that's when it got bad. And that's when it would be, catch me in the basement, and do stuff in the basement, or catch me in the bathroom, or I'll be in the shower and he'd just be in there, in the bathroom with me. And for a long time, I thought everybody in the house was in on it, because I'm like, how the heck is nobody here to stop him or to catch him?
Like, were you screaming or?
No. I think that's the day my voice kind of sunk away.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So when somebody tells you stop lying, stop making up stuff, you kind of quit talking, you quit telling, you quit fighting back or whatever. So I would just take whatever he was doing.
So was he doing it even when there was others in the home?
But not when they were around.
Okay.
So I was real good about falling asleep on the floor in the living room, and I used to be so mad, like, that they would let me fall asleep on the floor and then leave me down there. And he would, every time I was left downstairs, instead of being told to go up to go to bed, I would wake up with him touching me and on me or whatever. It just became like crazy.
Bless your heart.
And that was that was all of high school, that happened, and I just became more and more shy and more quiet and depressed, and it was just, I was getting good grades, but that's it. I was really...
It was just as though you was just in your own world.
I was just in my own head. I cried a lot at school. I just, and of course, it's not like school got any better, so I still wasn't considered pretty popular, none of that stuff. So I still had the same school stuff going on, plus the stuff going on at home. This particular lady just did not like my sister and I, and life was hard for us at home. We were in trouble for everything all the time.
Wow.
The only two girls in the house, other than the two adult women, but the only two girls. And when I tell you, we couldn't walk, we were always rolling our eyes, we were always stumping our feet, no matter what we did, and we stayed in trouble.
And it's crazy because sometimes, even at school, just think it's kids today that are struggling at home, and teachers may look at them a certain way, counselors, principals, and you have no clue what that child go through at home, and you're acting this way, and you're treating them this way. Sometimes all it takes is a trust and a good conversation.
And it takes somebody to ask a question, and that's something that never happened for me. Nobody really asked me, was I okay? So my game plan began to be, what do I need to do to get out of here? So I'm stuck right now, but what do I need to do to get out of here? And so I had gotten into the Upward Bound program, and we got to go to Upward Bound, every Saturday.
In the summer?
And then 6 weeks in the summer.
Okay.
And so I began to let that, literally, I still say to this day, Upward Bound was my lifeline. I lived to be able to go to Upward Bound, because actually that began to be a punishment. So if she don't act right, or if she rolled her eyes, if she didn't wash dishes right or whatever, that would be what would be taken away from me. Because that was the one thing that I loved. Like, I didn't care, they could, if I got put on punishment, my room was fine with me, because I had books and I would go to another world. And so, like, sending me to my room didn't really work for me because I was okay being in there. So they would, but upward bound was my life. And so, if I got in trouble, that would be taken away from me. But that began to be my goal, like, just, you got to get out of here. And so that meant working hard in school as best as I could so that I could graduate in college. And upward bound meant, because you do upward bound all the way through high school, and then the year you graduate, you do the bridge program. And so bridge meant I could go to college.
Yes.
And so I lived and worked to go to college. And in hindsight, I probably would have applied for scholarships and things like that, but my mind was not there.
You were just trying to get out.
And I was just trying to get out. And so I'm talking to my daughter about a lot of different things today as she's in high school, so that she can, be ahead of the game as opposed to behind the 8 ball like I am still. I think I was 70,000 back still between 2 degrees. But that was my life, trying to get out of high school, because that would get me out of harm's way and get me out of that house where I was never right. And just...
I can't believe you just still stayed that long period of time in a home, even though you revealed it.
Well, because once you reveal it and people don't believe you, and that's why, like, even fast forward all these years that, now I have lost, like, I cut people out of my life during the Bill Cosby and R. Kelly sagas that have been going on, as I watch people dog folk out. Why didn't she tell?
By speaking up.
Why, if that was really happening to her, then she would have told somebody a long time ago, not knowing that half the time when we do tell, nobody believes us. And if they do believe us, nobody does anything about it. The truth did come out years later. And I was in college by the time the truth came out. We had another big old family meeting, about it when the truth came out, and that's when I learned it was happening to my sister as well. And he apologized to my mom for hurting her, but not to me.
Not to you.
No, he apologized to my mom for hurting her. And so the truth came out, and even with the truth coming out, like, nothing happened. We just all moved on with our life. I'm like, not that I'm wishing harm on anybody, but at that time I was like, ain't gonna be no blood and mayhem. Like, nobody gonna beat him down. We're not gonna call police. We're not gonna do nothing. And I just didn't know what to do. And realistically, everybody just went on with their life.
So, how did you overcome that struggle? And, like, do you still battle it now, today?
So, overcoming, I think, will be a continual journey for me, because there are so many things that trigger you. Again, it was a rough season for me during that whole Bill Cosby, R. Kelly thing. It just brought up so much hurt and so much frustration, both for my story and for the women who were being called, gold diggers and all of that stuff. It's almost like I became those women in those situations, and it hurt deep to the core. I did go to counseling back in 2017. I just needed to go and deal with my stuff, because although I look, good, and although I am what you would call popular now, people know my name now, they know my business, people follow me. I think the last time I looked, I had 2,000 friends on Facebook, which doesn't matter, but there used to be a time when that never would have. People know who I am. They reach out to me, in terms of who I am, for my advice and for my counsel. But back then, I was like, people are able to see me as something special now, but I had to do a lot of work even to be able to have this conversation with you today. Because there was a time where I was like, well, if don't nobody else care, why do I keep talking about it? But keeping silent about it was actually choking me to death.
Yeah. And when you're when you speak out about it, you're able to help others
Absolutely.
that are silent about it, that never ever spoke up about it in their
part
past.
Of that quietness was trying to protect my family, trying to protect both my mom's image and her image, the other mom's image, and in a sense, without even really knowing it, protect his image. But while I'm protecting everybody else's image, I'm still dying.
Right. And who's protecting you?
Who's protecting me? And I found that was not happening for me. So, me and my mom have a great relationship right now. Earlier this year or sometime last year, I had a conversation with her and I said, Mom, God has released me to tell my story. And some of those times some of telling my story will mean that there's parts where it makes it look like you're a bad mom, but I want you to know that I love you and we're not in a bad place. And, when I look back on it now, my mom was doing the best she could.
Yeah.
We had just gotten out of bad.
Yeah, and then if you think about it, with your mom going through the things she went through, who helped her?
Yes.
So she was going through that whole process alone
and one
herself.
person opened their door to us. It just happened to be this person.
And who was healing her? Who was willing to listen to her when she said that your dad was doing these things or
and if
anything?
we were to get up and leave at that time, where will we go?
Right.
I don't remember a whole lot of folk opening their door to a mom and 3 kids.
Right.
And then here I come saying something bad is happening where we didn't have no place else to go. And so now when I look back at it, I don't fault my mom for trying to survive, because that's what it was, was trying to survive and probably trying to keep a roof over our head. And one day Sheila and I talk, we do talk about it periodically, and one day, we will have the conversation of why did we stay,
right?
But
at least you're doing the steps of communication.
And she knows that I talk about it now. I don't hide it anymore. It's not a big secret. At least first of all, I know that that's part of who I am. And it's part of the healing journey that I'm on, both for myself and the people who come and see me. So I got to be able to talk about it.
Right.
If I'm supposed to do the part that God told me to do, which was tell my story.
Right.
Right. The Bible says, the Bible talks, I think it's Revelation chapter 12, where it talks about they overcome him by the shed blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, that we overcome Satan and all his tricks and lies and all of that stuff by the word of our testimony.
Yes.
And if I keep silent and just pretend like everything is okay, there's a whole lot of other Lisas out there and other Vets and Kim, that's my sister's name. It's a whole lot of us out there that will never know that it's okay. And it's that we're not used goods, we're not thrown away because somebody hurt us. Of course, I had to tell my story to my husband, and we had to make, we still had to, climb some uphill battles as a result of me being, a sexual abuse survivor. And, in the beginning of our marriage, he couldn't wake me up in the middle of the night, not without me being afraid, right? Because I didn't know it was him. Right? When I'm sleep, and then somebody's hands are on you, it took me all the way back there again. And so we had to put some things into place so that I would know it was him.
Well, okay.
Right? Not that we aren't intimate, at that time, but we had to do some specific work together so that we wouldn't have to, be limited
always
to
deal
daytime.
With that.
Yeah. And we're so much better now.
That's
18
good.
years later, that's not a problem. But in the beginning, it was. In the beginning, it was tough, for me. He's so protective of me. So sometimes if something's on TV and it gets to looking like
make
it's
sure you're okay.
He'll be like, "You good? Do we need to change channel?" You know what I mean?
That is sweet.
And he's so supportive of me and this journey that I'm on of healing, and even opening my agency and doing that work with people. And he tells me how proud he is of me, and so the bad part doesn't. It's still there and it's still in my memory, but it doesn't have to stay forever.
No, it doesn't.
And that's what, my sister and I talk regularly, and that's healing. You know, the Bible says, confess your faults one to another so that you can
be healed.
Right? So my
Yes.
sister and I talk, and we, you know, have our moments where we're fussing and venting and then loving on each other well, as well. You know, she's an underdog, right? My way of dealing with all of that was to retreat and or be a good girl. Her way of dealing with all of that was, I'm about to beat the world down.
Oh, she just took our anger out. A lot of people deal with it differently too.
Absolutely. And so, you know, knowing we lived a very similar life, but we took it, you know, our reaction to it was very different. I'm like her number one advocate, because when everybody thinks she's just mean and got a bad attitude, I'm like, you don't know her story.
No.
You don't know what she's had to fight through and fight for. And so that's how you kind of turn it around and make it better. You know, is to really give, not let it win anymore. You know what I mean? Abuse and, you know, even growing up in domestic violence and all of that stuff, to not let it win.
Yes. You know? And overpower you.
Yes. Yeah. Even the memories, they can't win. You know, as a result of that, of course, you know, I've had some major life struggles when I got to college. So I did get my way out and made my way to college, but that didn't make things any better for me.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
did you have counseling in? So you just waited all the way to
all the way to count. And so, and one of the things that happened for me in college was, you know, there's so much residual effect to abuse. Right? When you take somebody's voice away, when they get out of an abusive situation, they don't automatically pick their voice back up. And so you continue to live life as if you're still being abused, even though you're free. And so I went to college, and I made up my mind once I got there that I didn't ever want to be held down against my will again. And and one lesson that I learned was that no didn't work, because clearly it didn't work from 14 to 18. I wasn't able to say no. And so I made my mind up when I got to college that I just wouldn't say no again. I would offer myself before somebody would hold me down.
Right.
So I went from being abused to abusing myself, because then I entered into a world of promiscuity.
Right.
You know, and then and trying to, not wanting to be there, not wanting to do that, but I also didn't think that no was an answer. And so I'm like,
just like a teeter-totter.
Literally. Like,
yes.
Lord, this is not what I want to do, but I don't know how to not do this. And if I say no, then he's going to hold me down anyway. And so I spent some years struggling, going back and forth, like, who am I? And what am I doing? A lot of those weren't relationships. It literally, folks was just there, you know, and definitely not fulfilling a need that I had, you know, with just not even participating, you know, because I have memories in my head of people saying, you not gonna do nothing, you just gonna lay. Right. And because my thing was, I just became something to be used, and I didn't know that I had power at that time to be something else and to be somebody else. And it took a while. It took a lot of hurt. It took a lot of heartbreak. It took a lot of prayers. Lord, please don't let me be pregnant, and Lord, please don't let me have an STD, and just all those kinds of things. It took a lot of that.
And he was with you the whole
and he
time.
was with me, and what I thank God for is that I did accept Christ into my life as a young girl. And so
that's good. Church
was an option always for me. And so even though I wasn't living for God, God all the way back then was there. Even the little girl in the swing, you know, and the little girl in the tree, he was there the whole time. And what I love is that even though I didn't know how to find God all the time, he always knew how to find me.
Oh, he's always there.
And he was there the whole time. And so what I love is that, you know, God did keep bringing me back to him and back to him and back to him. And before you knew anything, I found myself at a crossroads like, well, Lisa, you're going to have to make a choice.
So if Lisa made a choice and Lisa didn't know who she was, who is the Lisa today?
So the Lisa today is, you know, if your listeners could see me, they would see this bright red, fiery hair.
Yes.
Real dark lipstick, almost black, you know, things that I would have never done in my quest to be a good girl. I am sassy sophistication. I am quiet rage. I am love and laughter. I am healing hearts.
Yes.
I am a wounded healer. I'm gifted and covered by the grace of God. I am so many things. You know, I'm a wife. I'm a mommy. I'm a business owner. I'm a friend to many, counselor to many, whether I want to be or not. Folks like, you gonna talk to me?
Yes.
You gonna talk to me? You
Yes.
know, I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority
Okay.
Incorporated. I am so many things.
That's
I am
really good.
an author to be. And so I am working on a book that I just need to sit down and write it. But it's really just my journey to healing. It's not the name of it. That's part of the
That's
name
part
of
of it.
But it's the secrets behind my journey to healing.
So tell us a little more about Healing Hearts Counseling and Consultation Services.
So Healing Hearts it was birthed in me or implanted in me, I want to say in 2010. I had been working for a community agency here in Akron back then, and I just was really frustrated, not with the job and the agency itself, but just with the way that we present counseling, particularly to African Americans. I had a lot of turnaround with clients. They would come for a little bit and then they pull back out. And they just didn't feel like they were being heard. They weren't feeling like they were, being valued. And then, so that's on one hand. And then I have another group of people, family and friends, who I knew needed to go to counseling, and they wouldn't for a million reasons. Counseling is for white folks. You don't tell people your business. You gotta just pray about it and leave it at the altar. You ain't leaving it at the altar if you still struggling. It's just all kind of stuff. And God began to talk to me a little bit about presenting the healing journey differently. But I was afraid back then in 2010. I was like, you clearly can't be talking to me, Lord. You clearly don't want me to do that. So I would do a little bit more, and then I would pull back, and then I'd do a little bit more and pull back. And it took a while for me to finally say yes to God.
Yes, that's when you started blossoming.
Yeah, in 2012, November 7th, 2012, my husband and I suffered a miscarriage. And in that healing journey of miscarrying a baby, and that's a whole nother long day worth of a podcast. But, I struggled with getting pregnant. And so me and God, in my mind had this deal worked out where if I finally got pregnant, the baby came from him and all of that stuff. I was not somebody who could go and just plan. Some people go away on their honeymoon, come back pregnant, they got it all worked out. I couldn't work that out.
Right.
I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and so my body just decided it wasn't cooperating, which meant we struggled, to get pregnant. Just the whole reproductive issue, it was just a mess. And so, baby number 3 was 2012, so I had already been blessed with my daughter and my oldest son. So we were like ecstatic when we got pregnant in 2012. I'm like, oh God, you're so amazing, But then we lost the baby at about 10 weeks, and it just broke my heart. And I remember just the healing journey of, like asking God why, but saying, God, I trust you. And I remember one night he said, he just began to speak to me about birthing something else in me. I had found a journal that I had been writing in. So at that time, after my childhood journal issue, although I still wrote in journals, I never finished them. So I became a journal starter. So I got them all over the place. And so I would wait to cry and go through. I would hold my grief and my sadness all day, and wait till everybody was in the bed, and then I would go in my bathroom and just kind of cry quietly, as to not bother anybody. Because again, you learn how you don't matter anymore. So I waited till they were all taken care of to go take care of me. And just remember, I was up in the middle of the night one night and going through a journal and just kind of flipping through, and found a page that said, Healing Hearts is my baby.
Aww.
And it was written either on or near when we found out we were pregnant, where I should have been talking about the baby. I was writing about healing hearts.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, God.
Like, God, look what you done showed me.
And he said, and then literally, I do believe he began to speak to my spirit about his desire to birth something else out of me. That Healing Hearts wasn't just a dream. It wasn't just a joke. He really did desire for me to present counseling in the way that I do it because people had need of me. And so I just began to do the real work then. I got it, did the paperwork and all of that stuff to register the name and all of that. It still took me 2 years to kind of really...
But you were birthing.
Yes, but I was, really developing that baby on the inside and birthing. And in July of 2014, Healing Hearts came to be. And so what Healing Hearts is a Christian-based counseling agency, and that's just because I come from a Christian perspective in terms of that's just who I am. Anybody who's talked in a conversation with me knows it's intermingled with Lisa and Bible. It just come out, I can't help it.
With the very calm and soothing voice that make you feel so comfortable.
Yes, and so it's just part of who I am. And so I thought, let me do Christian counseling, which is what I know even in college that I wanted to do. My college professors used to say, you got to give up that Christian counseling thing. That's not going to work. And
not going to work for you.
Yeah. And
not
God
for me.
was like, no, honey, it's going to work. And so what I do is I just present a softer side of counseling.
Okay.
I don't bill insurance at all because insurance is a whole monster in and of itself, and they really do dictate what the counseling session is, how long it's going to be, how many you're allowed to have, all of that stuff. You have to have a diagnosis and things like that. And what I was finding is that people were pulling away based off of what we were calling them.
Okay.
What we were diagnosing them as. And people were like, well, I don't want to be labeled and things like that. And what I do know is that counseling really is just a conversation. That's it. It's just me talking
having someone to talk to, and you ain't got to worry about no one else knowing nothing about it.
And so as I began to develop Healing Hearts, I said, let's look at the barriers that are keeping people away, particularly my people. What's stopping people from coming to counseling? Let's tackle that. And so I decided I was going to be private pay only, but keep my fee at a rate that
was affordable.
That's affordable, where people can pay their bills and still come see me. And that we would not to do the whole diagnosis piece, although we do talk about it. I don't technically, because I don't bill insurance, I don't technically have to write a diagnosis down on a treatment plan or any or, a diagnostic assessment. They get all of that because I'm trained and that's what I do. But I do it in a way that doesn't feel so doctor office-y, situation where people just can come and be heard and feel loved on. And we are 5 years old. We turned 5 this past July.
Yay.
And I have been doing this. I went from seeing like one person a month, maybe 2 a month, to I am at capacity.
What?
And actually, and working to add on in terms of staff and things like that.
Oh, that's a blessing.
I do groups now,
yes,
because I was able to come and do some work with Fidea, and I do a lot of contracting with other agencies to come in.
That's
and do
wonderful.
And things like that, and God has really taken that voice that was silenced all those years ago.
And look at you now.
He said, you absolutely do have something to say. And so I just talk and I love on people. And like you said, God has gifted me with the ability to say the hard stuff.
Yes.
In a way that people can hear it, swallow it, digest it, and apply it to their lives. Right?
Yes.
God allows me to have the real tough conversations with people about all manner of things and allow them to know that their life doesn't stop at the end of, at the end of the tough road.
Right.
God allows me to show people that my job is really to step into darkness and frustration and aggravation with people and point them back to the light, which is hope.
Yes.
Right? So the name of the agency is Healing Hearts Counseling and Consultation Services, and our motto is we offer hope to the hurting.
Oh.
Right? We offer hope.
Yes.
When I was going through as that 14-year-old all the way through high school, my hope was on the fact that I had an opportunity to get out.
Yes. And even though you didn't understand crying out to God as a 14-year-old girl, as a process going on, God prepares you for who you are today.
Absolutely.
Because you're able to not only relate to people, but help them heal in a process. And you are also still healing in the process when you hear other people's stories and their testimonies as well.
And I think healing across the board for all of us, not just me with my tough story, my tough background. I think healing is continual. It'll always happen until the Lord comes to get us. I think it's a journey, which is why, and when you come into my office and people talk to me, I talk to them about the journey. That God is forever working on us. There's probably some other pieces that are tucked down in there that when God knows I'm ready, He's going to lift them up. He's going to stir those up so that I can process and deal with those too. What I love about God is that He doesn't dump the whole healing jar on me at one time, because you got to be ready for it.
Yes,
you got to participate in the healing counseling journey. On session 1 with me, we go through my informed consent packet, and it talks a lot about what counseling is going to look like and feel like. And counseling doesn't work if you don't participate. You got to be willing to say the hard stuff and see what that feels like on your tongue, right? You got to be willing to let it come out, whatever it is. When we hold stuff down in us, it's like having food poisoning, right? We've eaten something or we've digested something that is not good for us. It's full of toxins. It's full of poison. It's spoiled.
And our bodies react to it,
and it rejects it. And more times than not, when you have food poisoning, the only thing you want to do is what?
Vomit.
Yes. And get it out. And that's what counseling is. It is a safe way, a private way to vomit the ugliness of life out. And everybody knows when you have to throw up, when you have to vomit, when you get it out, you feel better almost automatically.
Yes.
You feel like you can sit up straight. You feel like you can eat something else that's better for you. Even if you have to eat in small doses, you can eat something else. When you got to throw up, you can't take nothing else in, right? And depending on this is gross, I am not a good throw-upper. I've never been, even pregnant, right? Wow. It just won't come up. It's a struggle, my daughter, same way. And when she was real little, she would know it was coming and she'd try to hold it in with her hand. And I would tell her, I know you don't want the yucky stuff to come out, but if you put your hand in the way, you're going to stop it and it's only going to make you feel worse. But if we can get that yucky stuff out, it's going to burn our throat a little bit. It's going to hurt a little bit. There's going to be some retching and all of that. But when we get all of it out, you're going to feel so much better. And that is my job.
10 times better.
That is my job, is to walk with people, to pull their hair back, right? When they are getting the yucky stuff off, to wipe their forehead, in a sense.
And then
with a cool rag.
Feel you again.
Yeah. So that they can know that, yes, this is horrible, but I'm here with you. I'm alongside of you. I'm rubbing your back, and but you got to do the work.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't throw up for you. Right? So you got to do the work. And when you get done doing the work, we'll get the right food in you.
I know that's right. So in closing, in a few words, can you tell our listeners what they can do to help themselves heal within?
First of all, I think the biggest thing is to admit that healing needs to take place.
Yes.
We got to be willing to say when something is wrong.
Yes.
Again, go back to my story, I remember a period in time, during that time, where I was just told to be quiet. Lisa, you don't have nothing to say. Just shush, right? And when people silence you enough, you just quit talking altogether. And we don't want to say what's wrong. We care about what people think. We care about what they're going to say. Even talking today, I thought, Lord Jesus, people who've never heard this story are going to hear it. And they're going to have questions about it. So I had some angst even just now. But you got to be able to tell your truth.
You have to.
The first step is that you have to admit You have to confess, because we cannot conquer what we won't confess.
And live in denial.
No, if you act like it's not there, it's not like it's going to go away. You're only going to suffer more and more until you actually get it out.
And hurt others.
And you're going to hurt others, because hurt people really do hurt people.
Yes.
But healed people, if the verse is true, the inverse is true. And so hurt people do hurt people, but healed people really do heal people.
Yes.
And that's why I call myself a wounded healer. That stuff did happen to me. So I was wounded back then,
mm-hmm.
right? I've got scars to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm healed.
God is good.
I'm being healed. And every time I'm able to walk in my office and yield myself to God and say, "Yeah, God, through my brokenness
mm-hmm.
and the journey you've brought me through, can you help me speak life to somebody else? Can you help me point out to them all the ways life is worth living?"
Mm-hmm.
I know the world is trying to show them something different. I know life, family, jobs, whatever, I know it's trying to present a different story. But can you help me to show them via my testimony and your goodness and your worthiness that we can do this?
Yes, because
right?
You're a life her.
Yes, I am an advocate of counseling, not just because I am a counselor, but because I've been there and I've done it. And there's something about being able to go through that counseling journey and just heal, to tell your story and to begin to realize that if you turn the page, there's a blank page there that you can write on.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody else has to depict the rest of your life but you. That you can begin to write something different.
So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
So I always direct people, the best way to get in touch with me would be to visit my website, which is www.hopetohealing.org. And so that is www.hope, the word hope, HOPE, the number 2, and the word healing, HEALING.org. I forgot how to spell real quick.
It's okay.
But, www.hopetohealing.org. And if you can get on the website, there's some video there that you can look at of, different interviews that I've done. There's some client testimonies on there, and then there's also a contact us page where you can contact us. You can send me an email. Our social media handles are there, and so that's the fastest and best way to get to us.
And you have an email. What's your email address?
So my email is very similar. It's info@hopetohealing.org. So it's all the same. If you can get Hope to Healing done, you can email me and or get on the website.
The number 2?
330. Yes, the number 2.
Okay.
Hope to Healing. And then our phone number is 330-356-4299.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening into Life Her Podcast. We're here to heal women all over the world. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Life Her Podcast. Facebook is Life Her Podcast also. And you can also go on to our website, www.lifeherpodcast.com, and listen to our other podcast episodes. And you can also have a chance to purchase merchandise. I am Yvette Lloyd, and I am here, and I am Life Her. And love yourself, ladies. And thank you so much, Lisa, for coming in. Thank you so much.
I know that's right, girl.
Bye, ladies.